Okay, so I'm about a month late in doing this video, but we have a cast for Special Forces Season 4, which is going to be taking place in Morocco, and I think it starts September 25th. So I'm really pushing it with with doing this video. Now, this season looks like it's gonna be kind of annoying because it seems like half the cast are emotional support family members, which, that doesn't say a lot for these people that they need to be bringing family members with them. Now, granted, the members in question are also celebrities. However, anyway, let's get to the cast. So, first we have Kody Brown. Let me make this bigger so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. Where is the cursor? Okay, so first we have Kody Brown, who is a star of Sister Wives. I'm assuming Kody is a he. I'm not familiar with many women named Kody, so I'm going with that. And that's just okay. Then we have Brittany Cartwright, who's a star of The Valley, which I might have heard it named at some point, but no, even less than Sister Wives. Anyway, this one I'm actually excited about, being a Packer fan. Randall Cobb, who's a former NFL wide receiver, and like I said, former Green Bay Packer, so I'm very excited to see how he does. Then we have first of the emotional support family. We have Eric Decker, who's a former NFL wide receiver and husband of Jesse James Decker, who's also competing, who is a singer. So, great. Maybe, that it will ensure that there isn't going to be an emotional outburst like there was, I believe it was last season. So, maybe. Anyway, then we have Andrew East, who's a former NFL long snapper and the husband of Sean Johnson East, who is, of course, a former gymnast. I think she's a gymnastics coach now, which, I don't know. I guess after, they've had two female gymnasts and they both had emotional breakdowns. I guess that's the thinking for this, is that maybe, Andrew will be able to keep Sean from completely melting down. She never struck me as someone who does that, but I never thought that of Nastia or, oh God, who was the one last time? Never expected them to do a meltdown either. So, and I really, really hope Sean Johnson isn't afraid of water, because that was another thing that seems to be a thing with female gymnasts. They don't like water. Anyway, so moving on, we have Mark Estes, who is a TikTok influencer. Okay, that tells me absolutely nothing. Then we have another pair of emotional support family. We have Gia Giudice, who is the daughter of Teresa Giudice. Gia is a podcaster and Next Gen NYC star. And those are words. Don't know what any of them mean. Well, podcaster I do, but okay. And, of course, Teresa Giudice is the star of The Real Housewives of New Jersey. And if I recall, she's gotten notoriety for all the wrong reasons. So that'll be fun. Not as fun as when we get further down the list, because there's going to be an even more troubled soul. All right, Chanel Iman, who's a supermodel. And let's see, who else do we have? We have Brianna LaPaglia, who is a podcaster. I really wish they would not just say podcaster, but what the podcast is about. Is it substantial? Is it fluff? Just to give you an idea of who these people are. Because most of these people know nothing about. All right. So then we have Johnny Manziel, who's a former NFL quarterback. And if I recall, he didn't make it in the NFL. Which, he's one of those who, Heisman Trophy winner, but fizzled out in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles this. Okay, Eva Marsili, not sure, is an actress and reality television star. Okay, that doesn't tell me anything. Reality TV star of what? Okay, Ravi V. Patel, who's an actor. Can't say I've heard of him. Christine Pierce Rampone, who I do know because she is a former professional soccer player and she was on the U.S. national team. So the first time we had a female U.S. soccer player, she won the whole thing in the first season. So this should be interesting. I'm really curious to see how she does. And here is the ultimate trouble child, Jussie Smollett, an actor and singer. Now, when I was reading this in People, it wasn't even brought up, why he's infamous. They just mentioned he starred in Empire. They didn't, mention how he lost the gig because he made up a story about a hate crime. So, which to this day he claims he didn't make up. So, I wonder if we're going to get more insight into what in his view of what actually happened. Why people think he hired these people to attack him, and so he could claim that he was the victim of a hate crime, because he says he was a victim, that he didn't make it up, but the people around him say that he paid them. So it'll be interesting what new nuggets of information we learn regarding that. And the last contestant is Nick Young, who's a former NBA player, which, again, never heard of him. So let's see, how many people should I say that I've heard of or actually are familiar with? So I know of Jussie Smollett simply because of that whole brouhaha with the supposed hate crime. Christine Pierce Rampone, who I actually watched play soccer. Johnny Manziel, never watched him play, but I am familiar with him. Let's see. Sean Johnson East, I mentioned already. Let's see. Teresa Giudice, I've heard of. I know it was not for a good reason, but couldn't tell you what that reason was. Let's see. And of course, like I said, Randall Cobb, because Packer fan. So it's going to be very, very interesting season. They really didn't have a lot of people withdrawing last season due to mental breakdown. So I don't know why they're doing this. Maybe none of these people would participate unless they had their emotional support family members who all are in the public eye. So it's not like, you have this private citizen that you're married to, but you're a celebrity. And so there is that. It's not like these are nobodies that they're married to, but still it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth as to why do we need this? And which one is it exactly who needs the emotional support? Maybe it's for one and it'll turn out it'll be needed for the other. Maybe they both need it. So yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they do. I know this is bad of me, but I'm actually hoping none of those people who bring an emotional support family member actually does well. I mean, I just think that it's kind of sort of cheating as far as I can tell, because the others, they're going it alone. They're, not relying on anybody. So, I mean, obviously you become friendly with your other recruits, so they help each other because you're all in the same boat. But somehow that's different than bringing a built-in emotional support because, daughter, husband, wife, that's kind of, your job is to help each other out, as opposed to recruits who you just make a bond because of the situation you're in and become friends, as opposed to, when you go home, it'll be a cool story that the two of you can share. But at the same time, it just, I don't know. It just strikes me as, unfair. If not outright cheating, definitely unfair to those who have to basically develop a bond with the recruits completely whole cloth. As opposed to, at least there's one recruit that understands me because they're my husband, they're my wife, they're my mother, they're my daughter. So, yeah. Anyway, that's how I feel right now. Who knows? Maybe by the end of this, I'll be like, that's actually what went really, really well. Who knows? Anyway, that is all I have for this video. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.